She fired him with a single sentence, never learning his name, never noticing the scars on his hands. 3 days later, her daughter would be dying in front of her, and the only man who could save her would be the one she had just destroyed. The boardroom was glass and steel, cold as the decision that had already been made. Emma Carlisle, CEO of Carlisle Dynamics, sat at the head of the table with her posture flawless and her voice steady. Efficiency mattered. Numbers mattered. Sentiment did not. The man standing across from her, tall, quiet, dressed too plainly for a company like hers, was a risk assessment consultant hired on a short-term contract. Or at least that's what the paperwork said. "Your services are no longer required," Emma said, sliding the termination form across the table. "Your recommendations are excessive. We need innovation, not fear." The man nodded once. No argument. No anger. His eyes were calm, almost distant. "Understood, ma'am." As he turned to leave, Emma noticed something odd. His walk. Controlled. Balanced. Like someone trained to move through danger. For half a second, she hesitated, then dismissed the thought. She had a company to run and a reputation to protect. His name, she would later learn, was Jack Mercer. Former Navy SEAL. 20 years of service. Extracted hostages from burning cities. Lost teammates she would never know. Now reduced to a man walking out of a glass building with a cardboard box and silence. Jack didn't hate her. He had learned long ago that civilians lived in a different world. They measured life in quarterly profits, not heartbeats. He stepped into the elevator, the doors closing softly, unaware that fate had just tied their lives together. 3 days later, Emma was late. Her daughter Lily, 8 years old and endlessly curious, had begged to go to a science camp outside the city. Emma finally agreed, driven by guilt more than time. She promised she'd pick Lily up herself. But a board crisis delayed her. When Emma arrived, the parking lot was chaos. Sirens. Shouting. Smoke drifting from behind the trees. Her heart stopped before anyone spoke. A school bus had crashed into a ravine after swerving to avoid a speeding truck. Parents screamed names into the air. Paramedics ran, overwhelmed. Emma ran too, heels discarded, breath tearing her chest apart. "Lily!" she screamed. Then she saw him. Jack Mercer was already moving, directing panicked adults, lifting debris with raw strength, his voice cutting through noise like a blade. He had torn his shirt to make a tourniquet for a bleeding child. Another kid clung to his leg, sobbing. Jack stayed calm, steady, present. Emma froze when she saw her daughter trapped beneath a twisted metal seat, unconscious, blood streaking her hair. Before Emma could reach her, Jack was there. He assessed Lily in seconds. Airway. Breathing. Pulse. Weak. "We need a helicopter," he said, already pulling out a satellite phone. Emma stared at him, recognition crashing into her like a wave. You work for..." "I don't," he said gently, not looking at her. "But your daughter needs airlift trauma care now." Within minutes, Jack had coordinated emergency extraction, using contacts Emma didn't know existed. The helicopter blades thundered the sky as Lily was lifted away. Emma collapsed to her knees. Jack stayed. In the hospital corridor, as machines fought to keep her daughter alive, Emma would finally learn the cost of her arrogance, and discover that the man she fired had already forgiven her. The hospital smelled like antiseptic and fear. Emma sat alone, hands shaking, replaying every moment of the past week. The firing. Her certainty. Her pride. Jack stood down the hall, silent, arms crossed, eyes scanning exits out of habit. He didn't leave until the surgeon came out. "She's stable," the doctor said. "Another 10 minutes and we might have lost her." Emma broke. She walked toward Jack, tears streaming freely now, no boardroom mask left to protect her. "I fired you," she whispered. "I didn't even ask who you were." Jack nodded slowly. "You didn't need to. But you saved my daughter." He met her eyes for the first time. There was no resentment there. Only exhaustion and something deeper, acceptance. That's what I do. They sat together in silence for a long time. Emma learned about his past that night. About teammates lost. About coming home to a world that didn't understand him. About how he took contracts not for money, but to stay useful, to stay human. I thought leadership meant control, Emma said quietly. I was wrong. Jack looked at her. Leadership means responsibility. For people, not just outcomes. Lily recovered slowly. Every day, Jack checked in, never intrusive, always respectful. Emma watched how he spoke to nurses, to orderlies, to frightened families. She saw something she had lost, humility. Weeks later, Emma stood before her board again. I made a mistake, she said plainly. We prioritized numbers over lives. That ends now. She offered Jack a permanent role, not as a consultant, but as Director of Safety and Crisis Response, with full authority. Jack considered it carefully. I'll accept, he said, if we build something that actually protects people. They did. Carlisle Dynamics became an industry leader not just in innovation, but in human-centered design. Emergency protocols. Veteran hiring programs. Ethical leadership training. On the anniversary of the crash, Lily hugged Jack tightly. You're my hero, she said. Jack smiled softly. You're mine too. Emma watched them, understanding at last that true strength wasn't dominance, it was service. And sometimes the people we dismiss are the ones who end up saving everything we love.